Hi, Stephanie.
Hi, Judith. My goodness.
I know. Look at us sitting here.
Long-time friends.
Really.
So happy to be here.
I'm so happy that we're still in each other's lives after what? I don't want to do the math.
Oh, was it 1990, I think, for you?
I think it was 1990.
Yeah. And as for me, it was joining Madeline's class.
Yeah.
1989, sorry.
1989.
Yeah.
So we have to tell everyone who Madeline,
Oh,
which
gosh,
Madeline we're
yes,
talking
we have
about.
to, we have to. So, Judith and I wanted to study a workshop with Madeleine L'Engle, the great children's author, the great spiritual writer, and we found out from different sources. I found out from a friend that she was teaching at a convent, Episcopalian convent in New York City. And so I got a place, and Judith got a place, and so how did you find it?
It was actually, this was when I was still performing, and I found out from a guy in my acting class, which was down in the village, that Madeline was teaching at that convent on the Upper West Side. And I was just toying with writing at that time. I was just pretending, thinking, oh, what can I do that's creative that I have some control over, unlike when you're performing where you have to get hired to do your work. And so I signed up, and I'll never forget showing up when it was at 108th, 100, I can't remember where it was.
It was 113.
113.
Right.
And the door of this beautiful brownstone up there opens, and there's this woman in a full habit at the door, and here I am, this nice little Jewish girl from Massachusetts at the door of this convent, and I felt so out of place. And they were so lovely. And remember that they would bring us downstairs before class for a meal before our class.
It was the most incredible meal. Apparently, they were so excited about having guests that they spent a huge amount on groceries and ended up, in spite of we all paid a tuition charge, they ended up losing money that first year. I remember the pumpkin ravioli. It was marvelous.
I remember the vegetable.
So you were not really into I thought you had begun a novel at that point.
I had. It was the terrible novel that never got published, which I tell all my students about at the Writers' Circle, because I think it's important that writers know that everybody writes at least one really, really bad novel, and it's very important to embrace
Only one.
Only one. At least one. But I was working on that, and I remember you, and we were around the table, and you and Kathryn Kirkpatrick, who's also another author friend of ours, were talking about your little writers group. And I leaned over to you and I said, "Can I join?" And you said, it was you, I remember this.
I remember us being at the table eating dinner when this happened. Yeah, I think she was opposite us, actually.
Yeah.
We were downstairs, right? Yeah, I remember you very clearly.
Yeah. And you said sure. And I was so intimidated because, Stephanie, you were by far the best writer in that group. Oh my God, you were so... I was just awestruck by your beautiful language and the words.
Goodness.
You were writing Nicholas Cook back then.
I was. Actually, my story is that I'd always written. I'd written as a child, and I always thought when I stopped my singing, I was an opera singer, that I would turn to writing. And then it turned out I did it a little bit early, and I turned to writing, and I wrote very hard for about 5 years at that time at AIN, and of course I couldn't get a publisher. I kept nearly getting publishers. They would seriously consider it, in the last moment they'd say, "This is, we don't know how to market it. It's old leather,
Yeah.
So I was in despair when I signed up for Madeline's class, and I'd heard that Madeleine L'Engle had also had a very hard time getting published. So I said, well, she did it, and when it's my turn, it did come.
Yeah.
Which is another story. And my writers group was there. So
and Madeline was there. She was a huge support. She was amazing. And she, in so many ways, I think, set the tone for what became our writers group, because she was so generous and so engaging and inviting for each of us. She never judged I judged you were the best writer in the group, but she never had a favorite. She always just tried to give each and every one of us the kind of support and feedback and inspiration that we needed. And I feel like that really transitioned into our little writers group.
It totally did. Mm-hmm. I think that one of the main things about, I think how many were we? We were 6, 8, we varied.
Yeah.
We varied. Some people came and some people left. it was wonderful. But one thing we had is, I think, there were several groups formed out of Madeline's.
Yes.
And everybody would come to us and say, "You're the group. Why you are all getting published." And it was true. And when we came in, only one of us was published. And by the time we left, almost all of us, 95%, were published.
Yeah.
And I said to this day, I say that we were a family and we cheered each other on. We gave so much to each other's work. We were there at the book readings. Yes. We were there with the agent difficulties. And I think this kind of thing, this incredible love that we gave each other in each other's work, which still continues with several of us today,
absolutely,
was the thing that made our writing group so successful, so joyful. And I think you have to have that. You have to you have to be willing to give a lot to a group and to the people. Yeah,
I agree. I think we talk sometimes with Kathryn and sometimes with some of the others from our circle, and I think about the way we would sit around it. So it was Elsa Rael, Rael, who was a wonderful playwright and children's book author, and she unfortunately is no longer with us. But we would sit around her table in her Manhattan Plaza apartment with so much food.
Oh, yes.
And
the food was...
Oh, my God.
And I think I remember wine. Do I remember wine? I think I do remember wine.
There might have been wine.
Yes, if it was wine, I had some, I know.
But I remember we never planned who was bringing what, ever. And somehow every single time we got together, it was a perfect meal. Like, we had the bread, and we had the salad, and we had the sweet, and we had the main dish, and it just was like this organic understanding, this unconscious awareness that we would have this perfect combination. And I think that that's, again, a product of us being kind and caring for one another and supportive. And boy, I remember a lot of tears around that table.
Yeah, we get very upset and we'd break down. I'd forgotten, but yeah, Judy
I remember I was a disaster back then.
Well, it's really, really hard to be a writer. I mean, first of all, it can take years and years and years to write a book, and then you send it out and you get thank you very much, no thanks.
Yeah.
Incidentally, Charlotte Brontë got the same kind of rejection letters. It could have been written today. It was quite amazing. Except they were posted. They were no email.
Oh, I feel very edified by that.
Yes.
Everyone out there who's getting those rejection letters, listen to that.
Yeah. So it's difficult. You need friends. You need really great friends. So there were maybe it varied. There may be 8 of us. One wrote essays and poems. That was Ruth. Elsa wrote plays and children's book. I and Judy wrote historical fiction. Kathryn wrote young adult historical fiction. Casey Kelly wrote a novel, but what she became very successful at was dramas on TV movies, yes, which she wrote us all into one of them. It was
I can't remember what it was, an earthquake or a hurricane.
Yeah, something like that. She was doing disasters,
yeah. And all of us were characters in it, just the names, not the people.
Which was, and we were very, several of us are still very close today, and even though the group has disbanded after about 7 years, 8 years?
7 or 8 years.
7 or 8 years. I think if things were very different back then. You met in person, which was wonderful. Not maybe wonderful for your waistline, but it was wonderful. And because, of course, back then there was no email, no internet, no Zoom.
No, it was the last century.
It was a different. It's when you submitted a manuscript, then you didn't do it as an email attachment. You printed it out and put it in a brown or beige cardboard box and enclosed enough postage for them to return it, which they did.
Yeah,
and
they would send back your self-addressed stamped envelope.
Yeah, and it was a very, very different world. But we had no Zoom. So if we had Zoom, I think we probably would have continued. I think it was the lack of proximity.
Yeah, because everybody, Kathryn and I were young, and we were
to have families,
and then other people moved to other parts of the country.
Casey moved to California, I think.
Yeah. But so let's talk about the way that we would share our work. Because I think how we shared our work and how we gave feedback was also part of it. You have to say what not to do because you told me something really funny. Tell everyone what not to do when you give feedback.
Oh, well, I have to jump ahead to this little section here, but I wrote, if you jump in and say what's wrong all at once, it's like telling someone their kid is ugly.
God, yes. So that's
you have
exactly
to be very,
right.
very careful. You have to say, you have 4 pages of exposition. You have 4 pages, describing the history of the Tower of London or something like that. I think maybe you might consider putting a line or 2 of dialogue in there, like a little contrast or,
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to be very, very careful because people, their whole lives are in their novels and we are creating our own secret world. A lot of people have secret worlds, especially when they're kids. They don't put them down, publish them, and give them to strangers. And so you're dealing with something. This is something almost still a baby in the womb. You have to be very, very careful.
Yeah.
We were very considerate. We had a problem with one person who was not so considerate, but that was mostly we just came that way. We were just drawn together that way.
Right. But I think that's another thing. It's positivity as well as constructive critique, because I've also seen groups, and they're lovely, and I appreciate them. And I remember early days, even going to 1 or 2 of this sort of group, where they would share their work, but they would say how great it was. And I was like, that's good, and that's nice, and that feels good, but it didn't help me to be a better writer. And I knew I wasn't good yet. I knew I wasn't good enough. And I think we all, even as we become more successful or more skilled at what we're doing, we're always struggling with our work. We need...
It's an enormous struggle. It's an enormous struggle. Sometimes people say to me, well, that reads like you just sat down and wrote it. And I say, for the 29th time on scene 1. And then deleting it. It's just and you're really exposing yourself, and you need to have encouragement about what is in scene 1 and what could be made that's wonderful from scene 1.
Yeah, exactly. And so whenever I talk about what makes a good writers group, number 1, it has to be people who are committed, the way we were insanely committed, who are kind and caring and not competitive. That's the other thing. Because Lord knows, I never could have written a single thing that you wrote. And I
could never write a word of what you write. I am amazed.
And it's the same here. And that is a great thing because it kind of takes the pressure of competition off. And I came from a performance background, and particularly I was a dancer at the beginning. I mean, dancers are brutal. Dancers are so competitive. And we are, to some extent, replaceable because you just put another person who can do that. But with writing, it is a projection of your spirit, your soul, your life experience, your voice, things that are unconscious and unquantifiable. So when you share your work, you're really vulnerable. You're right. It's like telling someone your kid is ugly. It's like, it's my child. And so you need commitment, you need kindness, and you need candor. If you can't, as you say it, but say something actually constructive, then you're just getting compliments and it's hollow and it doesn't help us move forward.
Well, of course, it doesn't help because everything could be a little better. And I think Judy said that she'd never joined another writers group, and neither did I. I tried a few, and I just didn't go back because I knew I had a family, and my family was dispersed, but 3 or 4 of you still read my manuscripts. I still had you there, even though I didn't have you there on Saturday with all this great food. And I just didn't feel I had enough commitment to go in from the very beginning. I don't even know. I didn't even recognize it was commitment. It just happened. There was something that happened around Elsa's bountiful table that was truly magical. It was like there was a spell over all of us, and we all got very, very friendly. And we all Elsa. What was that anniversary we gave? Was it her 50th wedding anniversary?
I think it was.
Or something.
Yeah, and we had that party.
We gave a party for her.
Yeah, downstairs in that. I remember that. Yeah.
So that's the kind of and the level of.
We had a viewing party at Casey's apartment for that movie. I remember that, and we had all kinds of celebrations. I'm pretty sure I brought my baby to visit all of you, and he was, still small enough to fit in my arms. And So it goes beyond simply, what am I going to get out of this group? It is a kind of, friendship, relationship of productive and useful information, but it's also just, I care about you. And, I don't think any one of us could have gotten there without each other's support.
No, absolutely not. I don't know what would have happened to me. I mean, I was really, as most writers do, even when they publish, had a job, was a single parent of two boys.
God,
I had a huge amount on my plate. And Judy told me at one point, I think you were the one who said this, that I always look tired. I always look tired.
Yes, you always look tired. But then you'd come into the group with your bag, and there would be like this 500-page manuscript tied with an elastic band, and it was an entirely new book, and you'd put it down on the
She's
table.
She's greatly exaggerating.
No.
Do not believe this woman.
You wrote like 3 books at a time.
I was, yes.
And I didn't, I'm like one thing at a time. I am hyper-focused, and I just kind of plow slowly ahead, and you would just plop down a whole new novel in front of us, and it was just mind-blowing. And I know you also said, and I know you don't remember this, but I've told my students this, that you wrote your first novel by writing a whole bunch of scenes, and then you put them on the bed and put them in order.
That was partially the truth for Nicholas Cook.
Yeah.
There were a lot of things happening, and I decided what order to put them in. And it was wonderful to be in this group. We went away for weekends. We laughed. We exchanged all kinds of. We mourned when we had to mourn.
Yeah, we did.
I mean, it was a great thing, and it's not. It's easily accessible to almost anybody. You simply just open your heart.
Yeah.
And you realize you're not probably going to just share by reading something for 30 minutes one time a month. You're going to become deeper with that person and encourage them out of their shell. Remember when Elsa was the oldest of us. She was in her 60s then, which then was old for me. And she had a rocking chair and you'd sit in, and just haphazardly she started to tell us stories about her life as a little Jewish girl on the Lower East Side.
Yes.
And we all looked at her and said, Elsa published that.
Yes.
And we nagged her, and she finally got something together. And then there was a Kathryn who was then... One of our members was then accepting books.
Yeah, she was working at Candlewick Press.
Yes, it was a pretty big press, and she brought Elsa's book in. They got an illustrator for it. Before you knew it, I think there were 1, 2, 3, 4 books.
Yes.
Sold in all kinds of places.
Yes.
And that is because it started with all of us in awe, sitting around this rocking chair, saying, Elsa, never mind what you're writing. You've got to publish this. You've got to write these stories. And they are still, I believe, a treasure to people. The stories.
No,
and
I
that's
still
kind
have
of what came out of that. But I think the thing is that anybody can do this.
Yes.
It just takes love, which we all have, commitment, which we all have if we're writers. You just have to find the people that you want to feel this way about. They're writing about them as people.
Yeah.
And then it's just something happens while you're eating a bagel. I mean,
you get ideas.
Or 2 bagels. I mean, Incidentally, those novels written very quickly. One of them just got published after 39 years of revisions.
Yes.
And another one may be coming soon after only 35 years of revision.
I know which one that one is.
Yes, and so
I
this
love
is
that
not.
one.
So this is not the final. I didn't produce a final product.
But you did. How many books have you published now?
Oh, just 7.
Just 7. I only have 2.
Well,
It's not a competition. See, but and I love that you're sharing 39 years. That was for Boy in the Rain.
Boy in
right?
the Rain, yeah.
Yeah, and I remember excerpts and segments from that from back in, when we were much, much, much younger. And to be able to see you pick that up again after all of these other things have come out into the world, and truly that sometimes the work of our earliest creative drive is sort of the dearest to our hearts. And to see you finally be able to celebrate that's publication is really remarkable.
The story of that is I when I first started writing, when I left singing and began writing, I had a book in my mind of these 2 guys in love in 1901 in England, Edwardian England. And I wrote it horribly. I mean, I can't even bear to think of how absolutely horrible the writing was. I was just trying so hard to write something that was very, very difficult. And people would say to me, "What are you writing about?" So anyway, so that's why I took so. But through my life, the important thing for everyone listening to know is that for every one of those 39 years, I had the support of these amazing people, and they were there to cheer me on and come to the book signing when finally it got between book covers, and that can happen to any of you listening who have a book that you've been churning on for a long time.
Yeah. So I'm just thinking about the variety of people who were in our group and the variety of people who started in Madeleine L'Engle's workshop, and I know, I think we grew together skill-wise as well as professionally in our years together.
Totally.
But I think there was definitely a difference in experience as far as how much writing backgrounds each of us had and how many things we brought to the table. And I feel like I think of it like a Montessori school where the more experienced and older kids teach the younger kids, and the older kids learn from the younger kids how to be a better person. So I feel like it didn't necessarily have to be all novelists or all...
No, we were not. And we shared whatever we had to bring to the table, encouragement, technique. We shared it together, and we were, one person did poetry, one person did young adult, one person did children's books, and we all learned from each other. We learned a lot from one another. It was really... It was an enchanting time.
And like Casey did screenplays and Elsa did stage plays. So we had two people who were really well-versed in performance style writing. And I think that, you can learn so much about dialogue from that, even if you're writing, fiction, because that is inherent in the story. And poetry, the language of poetry, it infused some of the work that I was trying to do. And I was reaching for a kind of literary style that I was not mature enough at that time to understand. And then through all the hard work and the feedback and the support, I got closer. I think I'm closer. Every day I get closer to what I think I want to write. It's never...
You've done it. I mean, but I think what we want to do is always beyond us. And it's a very good thing that most publishers do not allow you to make changes without cost after your first pass galleys. Yeah. Because a writer would go on writing forever, indefinitely. And even still, I look at my work and I said, why did I say that? I should have said this. How could I have used that word,
Also, you mentioned that we only met once a month, which is important. I don't know if we could have sustained it if we'd met weekly. I
don't think so. I think we didn't have the time.
Yeah.
We were all... You were working and you weren't starting to have children then.
No. It was before I had kids. But we all had jobs. We all had families, or spouses or partners or various things. So, because I think a lot of the time when you want to seriously work at something, you feel like you have to do it on a regular basis. And even though maybe meeting once a week would have been productive on a certain level, once a month meant we had a deadline, but we had this kind of vast amount of time in between to...
We talked to one another a great deal on the telephone then. Of course, again, it was before email.
Phone calls with curly wired things.
Yeah, I know. Those old phones, I know.
And also, like, how... I know you mentioned, and I don't want to get into the details, the one negative experience we had with a member that we eventually...
Oh, it was awful. We felt so awful about it. Because we had to ask someone to leave because she was upsetting the group so much. And it was awful because we were very soft-hearted and included everybody. We just could... We knew the group. She would bring the whole group down.
Yeah.
And I don't think... It still hurts me after all these years.
I know it does.
And it always... hurt Elsa, yeah.
But I think the challenge of these groups is keeping the positive, generous support. And when sometimes, and obviously in the writer's circle where I'm teaching groups, I'm in charge, so it's a little easier to manage. But if I'm in a group where it's sort of equals around the table, Sometimes people have very strong personalities, or they want to control things, or they don't deliver their critique with the generosity that is required to make it a productive conversation. And when that negativity comes around, it really does sour the group.
Yeah.
You know, we were really lucky, except for that one particular situation, that we, you know, had sort of this cohesion of personalities and communication styles. But I think that is really important, that I don't really love a writer's group that someone is in charge, unless it's something like a teacher. You know, I feel like you want to have peers in that setting. Now, when it's a teacher, you're there to study with the teacher. I mean, I remember Madeline sitting at the end of that long oak table in that room way upstairs in the convent, and she was so statuesque and so,
Oh, God, yes.
you know, not at all intimidating, but she was tall and I'm short, and she was, you know, Madeline Langle. So we felt like she was our guide and our leader in that context. But when we got together, there was no head of the table.
I think Elsa was kind of the spiritual head, and she was the hostess. It was really lovely. I wonder if you should turn to the wonderful section of how do you form or find your own writers group, because people are probably wondering that. Well, ours, of course, we were in this class with Madeline, and Kathryn said afterwards, does anybody want to meet?
Yes,
and those were
it was Kathryn.
Yeah, those were the words that formed. And informed so much of my life for years after her. I still remember her very young, and she's 24 years old and blonde and lovely, and saying those words. And we came from unpublished, or one person was published, and we grew together in that. But so that's how we found ours.
Yeah.
And once we found ours, we had a few people dropping out, and then somebody knew somebody. Somebody knew Elsa. I can't remember who it was. Maybe it was Casey. I can't remember who came to us. I can't remember. Anyway, people would know other people, and they'd come in. Yeah. They'd stay a bit, and they'd leave. We moved organically. So, how can you? What's the best way for you to find or form your own writers group? I'd say, one way is to if you know of anybody and they're in a writers group and you like them. They're a really simpatico kind of person. You might ask if you ever have an opening.
Right.
Could I guest visit?
Exactly. And guest visit and know that you're, you know, you got to make sure it's the right person. You don't just have everyone.
No, absolutely not. There were people I remember who asked me, and I said, "Oh, we're full." Well, we were full, but I knew it was a person that would be.
Oh, I remember. Was that Isabel?
No, Isabel was fine.
Isabel was great.
Isabel was great. I can't remember who. Or whether I think it was nobody I actually invited. I think people asked me.
Yeah.
And you know, you were really torn because you like the person who's asking you, but you know that they're all about super me.
Yeah.
And you know, aren't I wonderful? And that's not going to make everyone want to open up their arms and worship them. They want you a communal person. So you could ask someone. You might have to ask several people. Do you have a writers group? Do you know anybody who has a writers group?
So. Hang on that, because when you live in a place like Montclair or in New York City, where there's lots of writers and they're pretty easy to find, you can discover them in the kind of normal passage of time. But if you're in a place like, I don't know, in the middle of some place where there aren't a lot of cultural groups, or there's not a lot of kind of communal activity, where would you suggest that people go?
Well, you can always find people online now, which of course, you have to be.
I'd be really careful with that.
I think only someone you really know, you've really gotten to know as a person, online. You could post signs in your library or your bookstore,
libraries and bookstores.
Way that it used to be done very often. I would see such signs.
Yeah. I kind of like that even now. We're getting a pushback on the digital age, and I'm like, go analog, go talk to people at the bookstore or the library.
We need a pushback on the digital age.
I really hope so. Oh, my goodness. Yeah. Also, by taking a class, because thinking back, it was Madeline who brought us together. And Madeline spawned many of these groups, as you said. So taking a workshop, taking a class, meeting people, finding the people who you like their writing, like the way they communicate. That's the same way we leaned over at the dinner table at the convent and started this group. So taking a class is a great way. And, keeping it small is also important. Because you want to have enough time that each person gets to read their work or gets to share their work. I don't remember a lot of read all my pages before I show up on Saturday. Do you remember that?
We did not do that. In fact, I would have preferred to do that for a while because at times we were up to 8 people.
Yeah.
And if we did it occasionally, we do a joint group and 3 or 4 of the groups which had formed out of Madeline's. There were so many would meet together, and you get 17 people in, and they each read for 5 minutes. And after, this is my problem. After 6 readers, I glaze over, and I was gone.
Yeah,
I was gone. I just couldn't help it. I'm not good at that. So what we did is we all read on the spot.
Right.
You remember then you couldn't send your
you couldn't email it to
you couldn't email
it
at the last moment. So you had to go in and read it out loud. We were all very quiet and munched quietly our bagels and and the wine and we listened very intensely. And it was sometimes even with 7, it was too much for me to go from 7 different voices. But I did my very best. It was and I think we all did well because there was one of the writers, Casey. We had a big reunion, and we all brought our books, which we had published. This was several years later, and she lined them up on the floor and took a photograph of them. And there must have been 20 of them. It was really quite crazy, amazing to think that that had all come out of this, this group, this friendship. It was wonderful, and I think that you out there will find your own. You will find your own, and it will take time. And as Judy has written down here in her notes, commitment and trust takes time.
Yeah, trust is also
trust.
Yeah,
writing a novel takes time too. Writing a novel can take 10 years. That you're working on something to make it where you want it to be.
Mm-hmm. But that idea of trust, the other thing that is valuable, you don't want a group to be too small. Because I have an opinion, you have an opinion, Elsa has an opinion. I can still hear her yelling at me to cut. I still hear her saying...
Oh, gosh, I can hear her voice.
Yeah, me too.
Cut.
Right,
oh, my gosh.
I know. Yeah, exactly. And so when we would have a group of 6 or so people, everyone had a different opinion. And I've learned over the years that if everyone's sort of saying the same thing, then I'm probably... very wise to take that to heart. Mm-hmm. And if half the group thinks one thing and half the group thinks the other, I'm like, okay, that gives me some room to kind of figure out what it is that they're trying to say. And then if there's one outlier, you don't ignore them because sometimes they're the one who's right. But it just sort of helps to have enough voices, enough opinions, enough feedback. And the feedback was never, take your turn and now you must stop. We just talked. And it was very organic as we discussed. And but I find even in my classes today that I love when lots of people have opinions and share them because you find your true direction through the merging of all of these smart, caring, observant, and experienced, eventually, writers. We all had a different way of reading it. And that's another reason why I always loved that we didn't all write the same thing. Yeah. Because, a children's book writer is going to look for much more compression than a novelist. Yeah. Or if, we write historical fiction, which is voluminous enough, but I work with a lot of some people who are working with fantasy sometimes, and they're 1,000 pages doesn't even make them blink. And I'm like, oh, okay. So we need that input from different mindsets, different styles and different objectives in order to help ourselves find the right way for our work.
Pause just a moment.
Mm-hmm.
This
coughing person.
Yeah, it's just a little.
It's a little loud.
It's not terrible. But
I'm sorry, I had to clear my throat a few times.
I thought it would be once, but it's going on and on. So maybe we'll just wait till that.
I'm sorry, Judy. I skipped my mind from here to here. I'm so sorry.
That's okay. I'm just because we have 5 more minutes before we do our...
Oh, really?
Yeah, are we...
I'm telling you, it goes fast.
It does.
Yeah.
Is there anything you'd like us to cover that we haven't?
I mean, no.
I'd like to-
It's very interesting.
I'd like to mention this thing in the last...
How you start a writer's circle, you can.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, how you do it is... well, it's hard because you have to find the right writers, and that's why I think coming to a bookstore...
Well, I was going to say, we had Ariel and David.
Oh, yeah.
The book doctors it's a really great publishing overview.
Yeah.
Like that it's not always great to get published by one of the big five. Wow. It's not, it's very, but that was one of their things. They're like, come to events, meet the author at the end of the signing, ask if they like their agent, and then you have an in, and then you have a thing, but then you meet people there.
Exactly.
And a lot of the writers are having groups.
Absolutely.
So it was a really helpful thing to encourage people to go to events, but also to meet people at the events.
This thing is really, really important that we have down here towards the bottom. Be with other writers who cheer you on.
Yeah.
You find your own tribe. Christopher Gortner used to say, "You're my tribe.
Yeah,
I've got to be with my tribe."
That.
So I really would like to say that because ours is such a unique world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. We're still rolling, so go back.
Okay, so let's go back to this idea of going to book events and library events. Mm-hmm. That's where are writers, and writers are readers. If you're out there and you're not a reader and you think you're writing, you got to read.
Got to read, yeah.
So go to events that have authors coming to sign and read from their books. Go to talks at libraries. Go to book festivals like the Montclair Literary Festival. I was amazed at the Montclair Literary Festival. I didn't even tell you this. We did a thing about publishing, and I didn't know that anyone would show up, but because it's a book festival, it's there to celebrate books that people want to read that are already published, and the thing was packed. Because who reads books but people who also like to maybe think about writing them? And so you go to these events, you meet the person sitting to your right and your left. You go up to the author at the end and you ask them questions. You gather around at the bookseller, at the Watchung Booksellers tables at the book fair or at their store, and you discover your community in these bookish environments. And that's where you really can find people who have like-minded objectives and who might be a good fit.
I think that is so important. One of the writer friends who unfortunately has died now, Christopher Gortner, used to say he wanted to be with his own tribe. Mm-hmm. And there's a certain, novelists live a certain way. You're walking around, but you're living in this other world.
Yeah.
It's just amazing. When I was at some historical novel conference, I'd walk up to one person and, what are you writing about? Oh, France in the 1920s writers, what are you writing about? Hotspur, what are you writing about? Victorians, and then I'd walk up, I'd forget. Oh, you're the, no. I'm the, this, and because people they're so involved, and we are normal human beings doing our grocery shopping, caring for our children, but we have these other worlds. We're really in
our heads.
All the time. All the time. We are really in some other world, and that is, and they're talking to us. And if you really... It's very weird.
It is.
But it's not
healthy,
really. I mean,
healthy multiple personality situation.
Ballerina dancers want to be with ballerinas because they understand what it's like to go through that. Mm. You have to find your own tribe because other people, no matter how much they love you, they're always on the outside.
Yeah,
it's fascinating. It fascinates me. Yeah. All these people walking around with all these worlds in their head.
Yeah.
All these worlds in their head. It's just, to me, it fascinates me.
I think about Anne Easter Smith, who's another of our historical novelist friends, and she pretty much, Richard III is hers.
Oh, yeah.
And this is not a negative. It's just she wrote all about Richard III in her historical novels. And it's like when they dig up some new discovery archaeology in England, and she's like, well, did you hear what they found out about Richard?
Well, the thing is, you are passionately interested in the lives of these people, if you're a historical novelist, in the lives of these people who lived a long, long time ago, and you find one extra bit of information of it. It's like Christmas. I mean, it is so incredible that you found this, that on Thursday afternoons they were going for tea at this and this house. And suddenly you're there with them. It's very, and you have to find people who don't just tolerate you. Oh, there she's in her...
Exactly. She's just being weird. Just ignore her.
This is how people live. And I love to be with my, as Christopher would say, with my tribe.
Yeah. And, it's also making me think, and then we should transition, but it's making me think about another friend of mine who's not really a writer, but she's a really, really bookish friend. And she would find books for me when I was researching for my Norse Greenland for The Thrall's Tale.
Oh, really?
She would find these books in these obscure bookstores and buy them for
amazing.
me.
No,
and
amazing.
And incredible research that she just knew that I needed this book. And so she's one of my dearest friends as well, and she's the president of the Milburn Library Board right now. So if anyone on the Milburn Library, Dorothy.
Oh yes,
yeah. But so bookish people get us, and when you create a writing group, go to bookish places, classes, book events, and find your tribe, and then don't be shy. Okay, we're supposed to take a little moment here to make some recommendations, book recommendations. And I don't know, Stephanie, you want to go first with your recommendations?
Well, I thought about my recommendations and I really looked through my shelves, which was a big thing, a lot of books.
Yes.
And I said, this one, no, this one, no, this one. And I said, I'm going to come, and not have any recommendations. So what I'm going to recommend to you I remember it. Okay, is a few full books about being an artist, about writing, because these books absolutely saved my life. One is The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron.
That's a
I
classic.
read it, I reread it, I underline it. I go back 10 years, I've solved that problem, but I've got another problem.
Wow.
And she's got an answer for me.
Really?
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Amazing for me. Another one I read all the time. It's got a quirky title. It's by Donald Moss, and it's something like Writing the Breakout Book. But it's nothing to do with writing the breakout book. It's about writing, searching in yourself, writing the most incredibly intensive, wonderful thing with 57 revisions that you can possibly dredge out of yourself. That's what it's about. It's not about great success, which is lovely, but that we can't control. We can control the writing. And there's another one by Madeleine L'Engle. I think it's called Madeleine L'Engle by herself.
Oh, I know that.
Which is a wonderful compilation of Madeleine's teachings and writings, all having to do about writing.
Yeah.
One of them is listen to your characters. They know more than you do. I always found that very, very wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. Again, I took it out of my shelf and put it in another shelf. I couldn't find it. Bad news. Wrote the shelf. But it's great. It's great. So, Judy, what do you have? So,
I love books about writing that are not about writing, too. And I often feel like the only way to learn to write is to write. And so books like On Writing by Stephen King, which I always recommend to my students, which is more about the writing life as well as the process, are really edifying. I am in a mode right now that I am kind of tired of everything following tropes and the narrative arc, and we have to hit the beats for the novel that I'm writing. And I'm like, stop. There is more to writing than, fitting into the slots that have been, written down by Save the Cat. So recently I read this book for writers called Meander, Spiral, Explode by Jane Allison. And it's all about breaking the mold of, the narrative arc and the three-act structure, and how writing can be done differently. And in that vein, I want to recommend Held by Anne Michaels, which is so much exactly what I'm actually trying to work on with my writing myself right now, which is this fragmented, beautiful, imagematic literary novel. And if you ask me what it's about war, and it's about loss, and it's about ghosts, and it's about love, and it's about 1,000 things. And it's this tiny little 200-odd page book. But because it didn't follow the normal form, it challenged me as a reader and as a writer. So I kind of am in love with non-conventional approaches to writing. So I also want to recommend, because part of being a part of the writers group is part of being a writing community member. And I have two good friends who have new novels out right now. So I'm going to recommend Daytime Moon by Carrie Schlottman, who is a very good friend from my most recent publishing experience. And she's just published this book about a young woman who returns to the place of her complicated childhood, which was on the edge of the Salton Sea, which is in California. It's like this toxic place. And I didn't know it existed till I read her manuscript. And then, of course, everyone in Montclair knows Christina Baker Klein and The Foursome, which has just launched, and I'm
so interested in that. Yeah.
I know. I'm Christina.
The Siamese twins.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And I mean, Christina doesn't need my help anymore, but I just think she's the most lovely person, and I remember her from when she lived here and when we all would sit around. Briefly, I was in a writing group with her. And Pam Satrin, Pam Redmond. Anyway, so that was a long time ago when, so it's nice to see how successful she's been, and she's the most generous person, so I want to return her generosity and
Thank
give
you
her
for
a shout.
reminding me of it. I had forgotten that I really wanted to get my hands on that book.
Yeah. So,
Thank you.
But we're all here to support one another, whether it's in a little circle of 6 or 7 around a table in a classroom where we're helping to teach one another and to learn from one another. I learned so much from my students as well. And part of a literary community. And, Christopher Gortner said he wanted to be with his tribe. And I think our tribe is bigger than people realize.
Our tribe is really big, and it is totally wonderful. And I wish I could read everything that comes across, my eyes. But at least I buy a lot, and then
I know.
I look at my bookshelf, and there's all this stuff that I really want to read. But I say at least I bought them, and I will read it someday.
Exactly.
So ever hopeful.
Well, this was a lot of fun.
It was great.
It's always great to catch up with you, my dear. And thank you for coming out to my neck in the woods.
What's it been, 30?
I don't want to do the math because then I have to acknowledge how old I am.
Oh, gosh.
I don't want to think
You were
about
a mere
that.
child.
We were both mere children, my friend. Okay. Thank
All right,
you.
then.
Wonderful.